Welcome to Mastery Dojo, the podcast brought to you by Lama Tantrapa, yours truly, and my small team of co-hosts developing mastery. Mastery coaching is what we do and bring to you some of the masters and experts in our fields of energy arts, Qigong, Tai Chi, and related disciplines. Today, I'm delighted to introduce to you Sharon Smith. She is a senior instructor with the Universal Healing Dao, trained by Mantak Chia, has been practicing for 48 years. She's also an executive director of the Immortal Sisters of the Dao Foundation. Thank you so much, Sharon, for being with us here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I've known you for years and interviewed you previously, so I will just jump right into the exploration of this particular aspect of your work, the Immortal Sisters of the Tao. This is obviously a newer thing that came online in recent years. Maybe you can begin our episode today by sharing with us a little bit about its background.
In 2011, I did a pilgrimage to China for my 60th birthday. And part of the pilgrimage was attending a conference at a Taoist monastery for women. This conference was called Taoism in Women. And I did a short presentation there. It was a 3-day conference, and there were some nice things about it. But in general, I was sitting there most of the time thinking, you know, I could do a better job of this kind of thing. There were lots of problems with it. There wasn't a lot of translation or interaction between the Chinese presenters and the foreigners. It wasn't a lot of fun, really. And so that was in 2011, and it took me a few years to have the idea to do my own conferences for women. And the way this came about was watching a television show on PBS, and it was an interview with an African American artist. The interviewer asked this gentleman if it was hard for him to break into the art world. And what he said just got me. He said, where I come from, if they don't let you in the house, you build your own house. So I thought, I'm really tired of seeing all these conferences with only male teachers. And there's so many female teachers who I know who are experienced and more than experienced, they're masterful.
Masterful and wise.
Masterful and wise. Yeah. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start my own conference. I gathered together a few people to create a team, and we put on the first conference in 2017 at Menla, which is a Buddhist center in upstate New York. And we had about 100 participants. It was all female. And when I was trying to think of what we were going to call this, I tapped into a book that is writings from Taoist female adepts from the 9th to the 13th century by Thomas Cleary. It's called The Immortal Sisters of the Tao, Secret Teachings of Taoist Women.
Mm.
I thought, okay, that's what we're going to call this, the Immortal Sisters Conference. So that was the first conference. Then we did one at Kripalu in 2019 that was much smaller. And then COVID hit, and this was kind of put on the back burner. Then in 2023, we did a conference. Actually, it was a retreat in Mexico in the year of the yin water rabbit. And it was called Be Like Water. It was in an area of Mexico that was full of these beautiful waterfalls and a thermal river. And the water itself was one of the teachers.
Nice.
In 2025, we did another one in Palenque for the year of the yin wood snake. I realized that the next step was to create a foundation to
Yeah.
financially support women who wanted to learn, who needed support for their practice, and also teachers. So I
How
created the
difficult was
Immortal
it to
Sisters.
create a nonprofit organization like that?
Well, it took some bureaucratic maneuvering, but we got our 501(c) from the IRS. So we're now a nonprofit foundation which can accept tax deductible contributions.
Nice.
Last year we did a benefit called Riding the Golden Wave. We raised $10,000 and we gave 13 scholarships. And this year, our benefit is called Nurture Your Inner Fire, Qigong Medicine for the Year of the Fire Horse. And it's this coming Saturday, May 9th. It's an online benefit with 6 wonderful female teachers. And we're hoping to raise more money than last year for our scholarship fund. It's very
Is it a concert? Is it a lecture? What is the content of the
It's
event?
6 hours of classes, 45 to 50-minute classes by 6 different female teachers. And then at the end, the last hour is a live Zoom with the participants and members of the Immortal Sisters community, the board members, supporters, like that. So that's what the
That's one.
benefit is.
So it's happening this Saturday, the 9th of May. At what time?
Yeah, from 12 noon to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find out all about it by going to immortalsisters.org. Immortal Sisters.
Well, that's very wonderful. And now, who is it for? Who would you like to attract to this particular benefit event?
Anybody who's interested in Qigong or Tai Chi or meditation, not necessarily just women, although the women are teaching. 6 different classes. I think the first one by Catherine Davis called Qigong Self-Care for the Year of the Fire Horse. We have someone doing fire and lotus meditation, an American woman, but she lives in France, Aisha Seaberth. We have Violet Lee, who's doing liver Qigong. Marissa Cranfell, who's doing a class called something like Constellation of Your Organs. It's a practice using the inner smile with your internal organs. A Chinese woman, Yi Jiao Hong, an amazing practitioner who grew up in China and has all kinds of amazing experience and background. She's doing a standing meditation class.
Assume you are
Yes.
the sixth one.
No, I don't teach in this benefit. I'm
Okay,
like the hostess.
that's fantastic. When I host summits and conferences, I usually offer a class or a presentation. I know that you also hosted a number of summits through the Shift Network and now doing this online benefit event. Are you planning on doing these conferences on annual basis now? Because in the past, obviously, they were not quite every year.
I'm planning for the foundation to do the benefit annually. The conference trips, uh, I realized this past year that this is a 10-year project for me because I want to be doing these retreats, which are very intensive learning experiences during the yin phase of the elements according to the Chinese calendar. The first one we did was for the yin water rabbit. Then we did the yin wood snake. And in 27, we're going to do the yin fire sheep. Then we'll go on to the yin earth element and the yin metal element if I live that long.
I hope you do.
So that's a 10-year project.
That essentially means every other year.
Correct.
If you're not doing a conference this year, then what will this benefit offer other than an opportunity for people to learn from six wonderful female presenters? Is it going to offer scholarships?
We're raising money for scholarships. We have a scholarship application period that starts on July 1st and goes till September 1st. And then we'll award scholarships in September. Last time we had a number of people in our community who donated programs, which was wonderful. But also we had scholarship applicants who wanted to study with particular teachers or do a particular teacher training program. And we vetted all of those to make sure that they were good. Yeah. And we gave them the funds to pay for those. So this isn't just for our programs, it's for women who might be on a path with a particular Qigong school, or they're following a particular teacher and they need some financial support to make that happen.
Yeah.
After all these years of teaching and running events, one of the things that I've noticed is that many women always say they don't have the money to do these things. Men say that also, but I get that response more often from women than men. They have family obligations, particularly women from financially disadvantaged backgrounds. There are very few African American Qigong teachers in the United States who are women, very few. So, one aspect of our mission is to support that part of the population because we really feel that Qigong should be available to any woman who wants to study, and particularly women who can seed their communities with this beautiful, beneficial practice that we all love and devote ourselves to.
Well, I think that's a noble application of your efforts. You mentioned that you focus specifically on women. How does that work in our day and age of political correctness and equality? Don't people complain about how this is sexist to just offer something for one sex but not the other?
We were a little concerned about that when we made our application to be a 501(c) organization, given the political climate and how funds are being slashed left and right for diversity programs. But somehow we managed to squeak through. Actually, the last time I got a complaint about this was in 2017 for the Menla conference. Some guys wrote me, two that I remember, who were just furious that they couldn't come to that event. That was a woman only event. But since then, we open our events up to all of our immortal siblings. We open our events up to all of them, but our scholarship program is targeted to women, and we support women teachers by having them do the teaching. I always thought that to strengthen yin, you need to be around yin. So part of the first two Immortal Sisters conferences was about having women be around masterful women, wise women teachers for the purpose of strengthening the yin. And then when we went to Mexico the first time for Be Like Water, we opened the conference up to men, and we had 5 or 6 men the first year. And then in Palenque for the shedding retreat, which was for the year of the yin wood snake, we had maybe 12 men. And in the
Hmm.
past, we only had men who were connected to a woman there, part of a couple. But this
Okay.
year we had two or three men who just came on their own. That was really wonderful. And I think that there's a slow thing that's happening where more men are interested in studying with women. So we open our events up to anyone.
I agree that there are not as many women masters as there are men. Obviously, if you go to our directory of all the masters that appeared on my talk show since 2009, there are probably
Mhm.
3 or 4 times as many men as there are women.
Right.
It would be great to have more female teachers and masters. Why do you think not as many women become Qigong masters as men do?
That's a really good question. I think part of it is that many women just don't have the time and the finances to support their training. If you have a family, in the years where you could be making great progress in your practice, you're tending to your family, you're raising your kids, you're keeping your home, you're doing all of those things. And so that's one thing. The
Mhm.
other thing is in the United States, women practice yoga. A lot of them practice yoga. They go into the yoga community. And I think that Tai Chi and Qigong at this point have been kind of marginalized as practices for elderly people or sick people.
Hmm.
And yes, that's true. It's very good for elderly people and it's very good for people dealing with health challenges. But for myself, you know, I started my journey in this world when I was 27. It was 1978. And
Wow.
I am so grateful that I was introduced to this work as a young person because I've just had so much time to reap the benefits of this practice.
Yeah, the sooner you
And
start, the more opportunities you have to benefit from the practice.
exactly.
I observed over the years that at least half, and often more than half of my beginner students are women. But
Mhm.
then as they progress into the intermediate and advanced levels of training, the number of women as compared to number of men changes to smaller and smaller percentage. Maybe
Mhm.
25% of advanced students of mine are females. And when we look
Mhm.
at the population of apprentices who are more advanced than the advanced students, I would say maybe 10% are women, maybe 15. Do women have harder time sticking with training, or maybe it depends on what kind of training is being offered to them? Perhaps my training kind of weeds them out and men stick around just because it's more suitable for them.
Well, that could be possible. I'm not familiar really with your training, but I think that this is true across the board in all echelons of society,
Hmm.
that women tend to lose their fire for moving up as they progress.
Hmm. Why is
It's
that?
something that I've thought about a lot. I think a lot of women can reach the point where they're saturated and feel like, okay, that's enough.
Hmm.
I don't need anything more. I mean, I have that a little bit. I've learned so many things in my life of exploration. And even though there are other things I'd like to learn, like I'd like to learn Bagua. I'd like to learn Lihu Bafa or whatever. But there's a maintenance problem. It's like, how much time in a day do you have to practice? And I think a lot of women, because they're doing a lot of caretaking, literal caretaking, but also emotional caretaking, there's just a certain bandwidth that they reach. And, the yang force isn't strong enough in most women to push through and keep going. It's
Up
a
to
combination of a lot of things.
right. I totally agree with that. And so if the yang force is not as strong in women, and you said that you wanted to strengthen yin by hosting events exclusively for women or primarily for women, that's not going to help if there is already so much yin and not much yang. Adding more yin to it is not going to help balance.
Okay. Okay. So there are two things here. One is that our society is overly young. We have an overly young society.
I concur.
So, in order for humanity and the planetary energy to evolve, that has to change. We need more of a balance. But strengthening yin is something different. Strengthening yin means strengthening essence. I think it's been very difficult for women in the past few years, and particularly given the predator in chief of the United States, women don't feel safe in this world. So, in order to deal with an overly yang environment, you have to strengthen your yin. It's not about becoming yang, it's about strengthening your yin so that the yin energy rises. Some women don't have the yang ambition to move through it. I think that comes in a way from the persevering quality of yin that we all need to understand and cultivate.
Okay, so if we understand and cultivate these qualities of yin on the large scheme of things, it's going to create greater balance because it will essentially balance out the excessive yang that you were just mentioning. On the
Yes.
individual level, if
Mhm.
one is already yin and doesn't have much yang energy, and you strengthen yin even further, wouldn't that create imbalance for that particular person?
It might, but there's so many levels at which you can discuss this. You could talk about yin in the sense of Chinese medicine. You could talk about yin in the sense of personality. You can talk about yin in the sense of personal relationships. There's so many ways that you can discuss that.
Aren't they all interconnected?
They are, but there are different dimensions in which this is happening, you know. So I shouldn't say this because I don't really know. I'm being very hypothetical here. I was going to say, usually, women who are attracted to this work are recognizing that they've been overly young. This work meaning the cultivation and strengthening of yin. They're looking for that personal balance. And, you know, those are the women that I'm looking to reach, actually.
So the women that you're trying to reach and educate further are the young women having more masculine qualities of energy. Is that right?
Well, that's part of it, but also I love it when a really yin woman comes to my Tai Chi class and learns to kick.
So
It
adding
works.
more yang to her yin, in a sense.
Exactly. In a way, I mean, the thing to realize is that these practices intrinsically are about balancing yin and yang. Just like many Qigong practices are neither yin nor yang, but
Mhm.
affect you so that you become more balanced.
Well, that's
There's a
exactly why
stabilizing
I'm advocating for a greater balance to begin with, and want to see how your particular events that you're putting together contribute to that kind of balance.
yeah, that has to do with the teachers that I choose to teach. There's always a mix of younger teachers who are more active and older teachers who are more meditative. And people find their place. They learn skills, they learn tools, and they learn to pay attention to this balancing act, you know. I really am committed to that.
Well, that's fantastic. I also want to bring up the most recent conference that both you and I attended, which was the Science of Tai Chi and Qigong conference at the Harvard Medical School. I was delighted to see you on the panel dedicated to transition, specifically menopause. What was your experience at the conference? How would you describe it, and what are your takeaways?
Well, it was a great meeting of practitioners, researchers, and medical people who all have a love for Tai Chi and Qigong. And it's really inspiring that Dr. Peter Wayne and Dr. Gloria Ye have committed themselves to doing this conference every few years. For the people out there who need proof, who need facts, who need research reports, it's fantastic to see a lot of anecdotal evidence being supported by real science, whatever real science.
Scientific support comes around to actually substantiate some of those claims or anecdotal stories.
Yes, it works both ways for sure.
Wonderful.
Although I felt like the conference was really heavily weighted towards research with less exposure given to the practices that this research was focused on. I mean, there were moments of it, but I would have liked to have seen more experiential work there.
Did some
It
of
was a,
the experiential stuff in the courtyard where we would practice together.
yeah, but it wasn't official,
It was
you
not
know.
official.
Well, of course, it's Harvard Medical School. You have to just acknowledge where this was and, who was paying for it and all of that. Having said that, there were a few kind of mind-blowing moments that I had there, which I'll share with you. One of them, I don't know if you were in that session, it was called exergaming. Were you in that session?
Exergaming, I don't recall.
Three scientists from Hong Kong developed something they called an exergame, which
Hmm.
is an exercise game for elderly people who can't stand or walk, who are in wheelchairs or sit all the time. I think it had two modes. One is exercise, which is, raising your arms in Tai Chi posture or doing ward off, something like this. And then they also had the gaming part where the person chose an avatar
Okay.
and the avatar did Tai Chi self-defense moves against cartoon opponents. Somebody asked one of them, "Why are you using an avatar?" And he said, "Because the elderly people like it. It's fun." I thought that was like a little mind-blowing moment. I think the new developments in artificial intelligence could be really game changing for Tai Chi research. That was great
Hmm.
to see that.
So
For
artificial
me,
intelligence is coming online to help out the ancient energy arts.
yes.
How would you imagine AI would be able to assist with Tai Chi or Qigong studies?
Well, this whole idea that was presented about a digital twin, were you there for that?
Yes.
Okay. So, having a digital twin, which is basically everything about you digitized, everything about your health digitized and in some kind of data bank that AI could review periodically and say, when you're in a 70-30 stance, your knee is really going in and you're going to develop a problem there. When a person tells you that, maybe it's going to go in one ear and out the other. But when AI tells you that, you might go, you know?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. As a matter of fact, I'm working on precisely that application of AI in my line of work. So that's fascinating to see that I'm not the only one who thinks about it and finds the way to implement. And I agree, those were pretty mind-blowing moments. Gaming is also something that I appreciate and enjoy. Not computer gaming so much, but I recently created an app that is a 21st century evolution of the traditional Go game, the strategy game that has been around for thousands of years. It's a
Mhm.
three-dimensional Go. It's something that I'm continuing working on and inventing and integrating into our community. Speaking of the future developments, do you have any projects or interesting things that you're working on that you would like to share with us?
Right now, I'm totally focused on raising money for our benefit for the Immortal Sisters Foundation.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing about the Immortal Sisters of the Dao organization and the benefit. Just to remind our viewers and listeners, where do they need to go to participate in this benefit event?
You can register at immortalsisters.org. All the information is there. There are registration buttons all over the website. There's the schedule, there's the presenters, there's the topics, there's information about our scholarship fund, there's information about our board. Just go to immortalsisters.org and you'll find out all about it. And I hope to see you there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Let me wrap up our episode by reminding our viewers and listeners that you have just enjoyed an interview with Sharon Smith, the senior instructor in Mantak Chia's Qigong system called the Universal Healing Tao, and also the organizer of the Immortal Sisters of the Dao Foundation, the Mastery Dojo Show, bringing to you some of the experts in Qigong, Tai Chi, other styles of martial arts and energy arts, as well as meditation and personal development gurus who are sharing their secrets with you. Please join us at masterydojo.com.